Hey everyone, we're live, pal. I usually do the introductions of my co-hosts at the top of this show, but instead, we're going to quickly just give Denise Salcedo the floor. Denise, you had a quick announcement to get out of the way before we get to the show.
Yes, my official announcement is that I'm tired, sick and tired of Andrew Zarian. I'm tired that he doesn't button up his shirts. He's too fancy for me. And due to those reasons, I am leaving We're Live, pal, indefinitely. Just kidding.
I mean, you are leaving the show indefinitely.
Yeah, so I am definitely okay. All right, let me start all over. So my announcement today is that this is my last We're Live Pal show. I'm not leaving F4W by any means. I am still going to be doing my Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Friday shows. All the Speak Now Pro Wrestling shows will still be happening. However, I'm taking on new responsibilities that I can't really talk about just yet. So my schedule is getting a little crazier, and so I can no longer commit to being a regular on the show. So I do want to let everybody know that this will be my last show. But if you guys will have me, I'll come on as a guest sporadically. Every now and then.
Oh, absolutely.
There'll be some great reunion shows, and we can get some mileage out of the reunion shows. So who are we to blame?
Wait,
are we to blame?
I just saw the background. What the hell?
Oh wow.
What are you talking about? Background?
Look at that.
What
Are you
background
guys
talking
not
about?
seeing this?
No, I don't know what you're talking
Amazing.
about.
Dude, it spooked the hell out of me. I was like, wait, who's that girl? Oh shit, it's me. That is terrifying.
Great producing there. Great producing.
I love it. Continue on.
Our executive producer, John.
Wait.
Yeah, this isn't like I'm never coming back. This is I'm really busy. I can't commit every week, but every now and then I'll pop my head in and kind of keep you guys in line.
Yeah.
Please don't tell me we're going to have this up the entire show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, please, no.
Amazing. Wait, but who do we blame for this? Do we blame the boss man, Tony the leader? Like he's given her so much responsibility now. Like, man, could give her a little bit less responsibility, Tony. No, this is going to be great.
Like, keep doing stuff, Denise.
Look, Andrew and I, we support you like 100% in everything that you want to do. So this is not us being it's us being sad that we don't get to work with you, but this is anything for the betterment of the career and the brand of Denise Salcedo. I'm 100% behind.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Although
not
part
me.
Of it, 50% of the reason. No, you know what? 75%. Screw the responsibilities. It's all Andrew Zarian. All Andrew Zarian.
And I wore a full shirt today. I wore a full sweater today.
You know what? Too much neck.
Too much neck.
Too much neck, too much arm. Just cover everything up, Andrew.
Oh, no, there goes the hair.
How about this?
Oh, my God. You actually kind of look like Drew McIntyre in a hoodie right now.
He does, right? He does.
Right?
Yeah. 100%. Wait, so you also had an announcing gig this weekend, right? How'd that go?
Oh, yeah. I was doing broadcast commentary for Mission Pro Wrestling. That was because I'm part of their broadcasting team. Like I'm an official member. So I'm at all their shows. And so that went pretty good. But it was kind of crazy, though, because I flew to Texas on Saturday, got there, went straight to the venue, did the show, I don't know how long the show was, 2.5, 3 hours. I don't know. Did the whole entire show, finished that. Watched half of the Royal Rumble, woke up at 4:45, like 4 something to leave for my flight at 4:45. And then afterwards, like my plane left at 7 a.m. and I was back in Los Angeles before 10 a.m. and watched the second half of the Royal Rumble and then hopped on here and did like a 2-hour post show on the Royal Rumble. And so finally I was very exhausted that weekend, but it was fun, but I felt the fun afterwards once that was done.
So who is your style? Are you a little bit Excalibur? Are you a little bit Tony Schiavone? Like who more so? If people haven't heard you, who would they think about when they hear you do commentary?
Denise. I don't like try to be like anybody else because I don't.
You're not
like
trying to be like
personally-
Vince from like '93, Denise.
Oh yeah, what a maneuver! I mean, I could. That would be a very easy thing to do, but no, I don't want to. I don't like commentators with a gimmick. To be honest, like that's not something that I like. I don't like doing like all of that. So me, it's just I call it what I see, and that's that.
You know, my big like I have a broadcasting journalism degree. So like when I think about doing wrestling play by play or wrestling color commentary, you know, the fear in my mind is miscalling specific moves because every iteration or version of a cutter has a different name, and you got to remember it per wrestler and per maybe they work in one company and they call it one thing, and then you work in another company and you call it that thing. Like, how do you get around that, Denise? Because there's so many moves and so many different names for all these moves now.
So I don't do play-by-play, I do color commentary, so I don't really have to. Like me and Sam, we find like a balance. So like every now and then, like I will call certain moves and whatnot. However, because you're kind of like, you got to think about this. Like there's so much that is going through your mind while you're calling a match. It's like you're watching what's unfolding in the ring, but you also have all of like this background information that you want to make sure to like throw in at certain points during the match. And so you have all of this information. Sometimes the stuff is moving really fast, right? Like the action in the ring, and you're just like thinking like very, very fast. So I remember my first time doing commentary, I like really messed up. It was so funny. It was one thing, it was like a tiny thing, but it pissed me off because I was like, really, Denise? Like, you really just said that? So I wanted to say that, the wrestler in the ring did an uppercut, right? And I accidentally messed up and I said he did an upper hand. Because I was just I was just thinking too much. And so I felt like people are, if someone's just listening to me for the first time ever, probably thinking like, oh, she's like doesn't know anything. And so it was that one mistake that like really irritated me. But other than that, like things have definitely improved. Like that was just like a minor mistake.
But technically, like literally an upper hand, it's an upper hand. You hit with the hand as well, so you're not that.
It was
embarrassing. On that.
It was so embarrassing.
Okay,
Jared,
so
have you done color commentary or play-by-play before?
Not for wrestling. No, I mean I've done it. Actually, even I've done it like practice, but I've never done it even in college when I was at San Jose State and I was on radio shows talking about sports. I didn't do any of that stuff because you had to do basically overnights at the radio station, and you basically had to have like, you had to come in and do the midnight to 3 a.m. shift. And I was like, that's not where I'm going. I still worked at the radio station that I wanted to and stuff, but I never actually did the commentary. One of the things that I would say for fun, I would love to do, but I think my window has passed as far as being able to do it officially. But yeah, it's always been something that I wanted to do, but just
done it twice
because of X, Y, and Z. I've never done. Now, well, there goes my headphones. Some people who listen to this show may know the name of Ed in San Antonio. He is he's a big name in the F4W sphere. He does a show. He has a women's show. I think Denise has worked a show for Ed before. And I told him, I was like, look, me and John LaRocca from the Fight Game podcast, we'll do the play-by-play. And he was like, I was joking. He's like, yep, you got it. And I was like, oh, now do we have to do it? So I don't know. Well, we'll see. I may get an opportunity at some point.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got to do a show with Ed in San Antonio. Really, really nice, sweet guy. I did his last show in Las Vegas, and we did commentary together, and that was my first time doing commentary. And but and then afterwards now with Mission Pro, it's more consistent. But yeah,
there you go. All right, so let's talk about the Royal Rumble. I know that we've all exhausted our hot takes on what happened on Saturday night, but there's news coming out of the show that I thought was really interesting. If you listen to Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer talked about Shane McMahon being heavily involved in the producing of the match, but also how chaotic that match was with Vince changing so many things, supposedly even the order of who was going to come out, like right up until the start of the match or something. So it sounds like it was just chaotic. But Andrew, have you heard anything about this Shane thing? Because I fully expected him to be in this Elimination Chamber. And then if you watch Raw yesterday, Shane's like nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be heard from. Like it just seems like there's lots of chaos going on right now with them.
A lot of changes. So Shane was a producer and a writer on the this year's Rumble. A lot of people were shocked by that. And historically, he's always been involved with the Rumble. Last year he was involved. 2020, considered one of the best ones. top 5 at least. He was a producer on that. Obviously, he had other people he was working with. I think Lance was a producer on the 2020 Rumble as well. So it's a collective effort. Hunter was not there this year, and I believe Tyson Kidd was not there to produce the show for this year's Rumble. So it was
I did hear that, and the
Okay.
reason, at least the reason I heard, is very interesting. Though I don't want you to get a text, so I'm not even going to mention it.
No,
but
go
yeah,
ahead.
like
Say it.
no, it's probably best that we wait
Okay.
until the heavy hitters release that information. But like supposedly there were women who were supposed to be in that match, and when they heard that Tyson Kidd was not agenting it, they decided not to be in it.
Very interesting. Very interesting, right?
Yeah, the whole thing to
Yeah.
me, like, you know, we think of the Royal Rumble, and Andrew and I talked about this on Wrestling Observer Live over the weekend, of it's an opportunity for like casual fans to sort of show interest in the product, even if they weren't watching it over the last several months. And so to come back and for them to not like have everything ready to go, like this is what we're going to do, and for it to be so chaotic, just like, man, you know, you would hope that there would be a little bit more foresight into, you know, one of the bigger shows of the year, but it doesn't. It looks like it was just mad chaos.
Yeah, and that was
thing
kind of that was the feedback I got throughout the whole night. I mean, I was getting texts from people while we were doing the watch along, and it was just like, wow, this is really stressful. That was kind of the overtone of it. Listen, some years it's way more stressful and more chaotic than other years. This year seemed to be that one. A lot of changes, obviously. A lot of rumors. There was a story that came out. I forgot who published it. I don't want to give the wrong information, but somebody said that Matt Riddle was supposed to win this year's Rumble.
Yes.
I never heard that. I mean, this is the first I'm hearing of that. Really, I mean, maybe his name was thrown in it, but never as a consideration. I know the last, at least 2 weeks, Brock Lesnar was the guy, but we're seeing some shifts because I'm hearing a lot of Shane stuff for WrestleMania. I've heard 2 separate matches. I've heard that there was a plan early in the year. So this is probably around day 1. So first of January, so early in the month. I guess the changes due to COVID and Drew getting hurt kind of moved everybody around with this. We all saw that happen. But one of the opponents for Shane was set to be Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
Another name was Bobby Lashley that I had heard. I'm not going to say who messaged me, but somebody yesterday messaged me and they're like, "Hey, did you hear anything about Lashley's opponent?" And I was like, "Is it? Don't tell me it's Shane." And he's like, "Yeah, that's kind of what I heard." Now, I don't know if these are happening. This all could have been changed. I believe I got a DM actually from somebody this morning and it says, it was almost a sure thing. It looks like things have changed again. So these are things that are moving around, but from what I mean, even up to a couple hours ago, it was Shane is in a prominent position at WrestleMania this year.
Yeah,
and I was thinking he was going to wrestle Austin Theory. That just kind of seemed like the direction they were heading in with this like
that
Vince
makes the most
McMahon
sense.
nonsense story, right? Unfortunately, which is sad actually that makes the most
They
sense.
can still go that way. I mean, they can still go with Austin Theory. I kind of want to see that in a weird way. I want to see them fighting for Vince's love.
Yeah, no.
But here's the thing, though. Like, I think after what we saw from Shane McMahon in the actual Royal Rumble, like the physical aspect of it, like, I don't want to see any of it. Like, it was not, the greatest thing.
Okay, and imagine, let's just say, because I think what Denise is talking about is just, he does the punches thing and supposedly hits a lot of people. Like, imagine him accidentally hitting Bobby Lashley, like, in a match, and Bobby Lashley's like a real guy. I mean, it'd be almost as bad as hitting Brock, right? So I don't want to see Shane in there because I don't want to see him get hurt. But, look, the problem, and there's a lot of problems with creative, but, in any company, Andrew is a business person. Denise is, in control of her own affairs. If you don't have the direction at the top of everything's set and everything's planned, and you're just scratching and clawing up to the show. Like, how can WWE creative have any sort of direction when the top guy, the guy who runs the whole company, is changing things up to the last minute? I really feel bad for the people who are, there and in charge of kind of putting this stuff together. But you also feel for the wrestlers, like if that is true, that some of the wrestlers were going into the match getting the countdown and they did not know how they were going to be eliminated or who they were going to eliminate as they were getting to the curtain and coming out. Like, that is crazy as well. So anything else, Denise or Andrew, you guys wanted to add about those things before we move on?
Yeah, honestly, I think there's a couple of things we need to touch on. And you kind of mentioned it right at the beginning, how like the Royal Rumble is definitely a pay-per-view that, the casuals tune in and they watch. I know people that don't watch wrestling whatsoever, but they will watch the Royal Rumble, for whatever reasons, right? And so like for me, this is the pay-per-view that you definitely get right. And it was surprising to me that a lot of things didn't get right, because I know that for the most part, WWE, we criticize, Raw and SmackDown and NXT and all of these things. But for the most part, I always enjoy the pay-per-views. I think that the pay-per-views are very enjoyable. And this Royal Rumble had a lot of buzz heading into it, some big matches. Obviously, the whole, I was looking forward to a lot of matches on this card. So I think for me, I was very surprised when I found out that a lot of people didn't like the show, and also more so the men's rumble, when a lot of people said that it was like not good. And usually when something's not good, I'll get like like maybe 40% of like Twitter people telling me, oh, it's not good, but 60% will be like, oh, like it's just people like it was good, right? Like there's usually, it's sort of split usually. But this time I would say that like based on the comments that I saw when I asked people what they thought of the Rumble, I would say like 80-90% of the people, maybe even more than that, were like completely burying the Rumble. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I did not expect that. And I know a lot of people are like, really, Denise, you didn't expect that? No, I didn't expect that, especially not for this kind of a pay-per-view. And I'm going into this and I'm watching this and I'm just thinking to myself, like, there was no reactions for a lot of the guys that were coming in, and that's due to them not building up stars and people not having these reactions. But more so, there was no like memorable spots that usually occur in the Royal Rumble. Like we didn't have any of that, so there was a lot of the key elements that were missing from the Rumble that we didn't get to see on the show. So for me, like it is very like it bummed me out, honestly, that the Rumble was not good, because again, that is one of the pay-per-views that regardless, I think, of how you feel about the WWE product, I feel like no matter what, we can at least still find some sort of excitement in the Royal Rumble. So it was a little bit disappointing. And there were a lot of things where I was just like, I cannot believe like this happened. Not even like the whole Brock Lesnar thing. Like honestly, that was even like probably like the least of it in my opinion. Like there was so much more that occurred that I was just like, I can't even believe that this is what we're kind of getting with the Rumble.
Mm-hmm. So actually, I wanted to ask you a follow-up here, because Andrew and I talked about this over the weekend on Wrestling Observer Live, but the report that the WrestleMania match is going to be Ronda versus Charlotte rather than Ronda versus Becky. I wanted to get your quick thoughts on that.
Well, the only plus side of that I'm thinking was, okay, if we're not going to get Ronda and Becky, does that mean we're going to get Becky and Bianca? So again, that's like, I'm looking at the bright side of things, but I wasn't expecting for it to be Ronda and Charlotte. I was thinking like, hey, if Ronda's coming in, it's probably going to be Ronda and Becky. But at least now I'm thinking like, hopefully we get Becky and Bianca Belair.
No, I think that's a great point, in that there is a little bit of a silver lining, because then Bianca is still in the mix. So, Andrew, we had talked about this a little bit, but I kind of wanted to hear it from your perspective. Ronda Rousey, I'm going to get on my pedestal here about Ronda in a second, but I'm hearing so much negative feedback about Ronda Rousey from the Royal Rumble and from her appearance on Raw yesterday, about how, she doesn't look like she's having a good time. This is going to be a big time fail. And, there's so much, she just doesn't look like she wants to be here. And, she's going to be in the main event. And what do you think about the feedback so far? I mean, this woman came back after 4 months from giving birth in a miraculous comeback here. And I feel like she's just getting slapped left and right by Joe Wrestling Fan. What have you been hearing? Are you hearing the same things?
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of it. She just had a baby. She came back after 4 months. She'll most likely. I mean, I don't expect her not to look good at WrestleMania. I think she'll look fantastic. In ring, I'm not talking physical looks, right? I'm talking in ring. I obviously she's a little rusty. A Royal Rumble, by the way, you got to know how to work in something like this, right? It's not one of those things that you could choreograph your spots like most of her matches.
Yeah.
So I think she was a little bit out of her element there going into it. You know, she was doing arm bars and she's doing submissions to kind of, hide a lot of it. But, it was what it was. Now, as far as her promo on Monday goes, I think it was just her character she was playing.
Yep.
And here's the other thing. And I get a lot of it, but wasn't the argument that Ronda was too happy and too babyface when she first showed up and that she should have been serious and mean and like an asshole, more than anything else? I feel like, you're never gonna appease everybody. It wasn't a great promo, but she's just getting there again. She's getting her bearings back in order. Give her a couple of weeks and then let's complain.
Yeah, I think you're right because as we've said historically, at least in recent history, WWE has a problem booking baby faces, right? It's probably the reason why Becky wanted to come back as a heel is because they have an issue. That's why Roman had to go heel. But you know who's the best babyface in all of wrestling right now is Brock Lesnar. That dude's having so much fun.
Top class babyface.
Back to Ronda. Here, like when I think about wrestling and superstars, I often relate it to like real sports counterparts because I am a giant sports fan. And there's a moment in Kobe Bryant's career. And when we talk about Ronda's intensity as an athlete, I think it is comparable to someone like Kobe Bryant, one of the most intense basketball players of all time. But when Kobe Bryant came back from his Achilles injury, and even before that, like he specifically turned his focus as less of a babyface and more of like an intense kind of, badass. Like that's who he wanted to be. And because he's such a great athlete, he's so dedicated. He came back from an injury, that would have knocked, a lot of people out back then with the Achilles. And he came back and he played and, he wasn't himself, but he was also older. But that was important to him, was to come back and not let the injury knock him out of the NBA. And so when you look at Ronda, just had a baby, I think what people don't realize is the toll that childbirth takes on a woman's body. Like Ronda's body will never be exactly the same as it was. It's been through such an amazing transformation. And so Ronda, as the competitive, as the really just focused athlete that she is, she circled the date on her calendar and was like, I need to be back by this date. And she made it. Now, is that the best thing for her body? Who knows? Only she would know. But she also needs time to get back into the physical shape that she wants to be at. She's a world-class athlete, right? And then to come back into this sort of chaoticness of what we have heard or learned was the Royal Rumble, that somewhat plays a part. Again, her promo last night, it was just straightforward. Like they gave her some of the goofy WWE language, and so she had to say it. But the whole buildup was just to get her on TV, but the payoff was Lita and Becky. Like that was really what the payoff was. So she was kind of in an interesting position. I just want wrestling fans, like, give this woman a break. She's been gone for 3 years. She had a miraculous comeback from childbirth in half the time that I think Becky even did. And Becky came back ripped in great shape, right? Becky was ready. So let's, like Andrew said, let's play it out because I think people are being really unfair about how hard it is to come back from just having a baby. Denise, did you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the whole baby stuff, I can't really comment on that because I legitimately just do not know. But in regards to what I saw in the Rumble match, I mean, there was nothing to be over the moon about in terms of her performance. And I get it, like, give her the whole couple of weeks. I totally get that. And that's cool. And that's what I'm planning to do. But at the end of the day, the Rumble was, the first showcase of her since her returning, and it was not very impressive. The actual elimination of Charlotte was absolutely terrible in my opinion. I did not like it at all. And so for me, like, I wasn't necessarily I wasn't screaming with excitement about anything that Ronda did in the actual Rumble. In terms of Monday Night Raw, it was one of those things where, you know, when I was reviewing the show last night, you know, we're talking about Becky and Ronda, you know, two huge stars, and I love Ronda too. So let me add that while I'm talking about this. And this is a big deal, right? Becky Ronda is a big deal, but I legitimately did not necessarily like fangirl, or you can say like mark out, until Lita stepped into there and she was going at it with Becky Lynch. And that was my thing where I was like, yes, like this is what I'm interested in right now. And that's not necessarily like that's just how I felt like in the moment. And I get the criticisms, you know, of Ronda Rousey in terms of like the mic work and all of that. I didn't think it was as bad as some people might be saying it is, but I get what they mean too. Like it wasn't anything again to be over the moon about.
Yeah. Sure. No, I think that's fair. It's 100% fair. And Ronda herself would want to be graded by her performance, right? Like that's what she's all about as an athlete. Let's quickly talk about the booking of this Elimination Chamber. And, you know, the Lita and Becky thing I thought was really good. Lita herself was not great in that match, but, you know, you got to give her the benefit of the doubt. She's coming back after not wrestling for a long time, but I thought she outperformed the promo. Like she was a great babyface with Becky there in the promo. But let's talk about the Elimination Chamber match. So what they did is they set up, this was weird to me. Okay, this is always weird to me when they do this, and maybe Andrew has some insight as to why they do this. So we have a champion in Bobby Lashley. He just beats Brock Lesnar to win the championship. Why would you put a champion in a match in which he has to beat 5 other people to defend his title? It is so unfair and it's so illogical. But they announced that on Twitter. And so when you already announce the match, then you have to sort of book backwards to get to the match. And so all of Raw was spent creating matches to get into the chamber. So Brock Lesnar came out at the top of that show and was amazing. This was one of my favorite Brock promos maybe ever. He adds himself into that match because he feels he got screwed out against Bobby Lashley. He also says his WrestleMania match is going to be against Roman, but he wants Bobby's title because he wants WrestleMania to be title versus title. Seth Rollins then said that he's going to be in the match as well. And then Austin Theory, Matt Riddle, and AJ Styles all won qualifying matches to get into the match, which will be Saturday, February 19th in Saudi Arabia. Andrew, what did you think about the whole booking of last night and getting to this Elimination Chamber match?
I always find it bizarre when the champion is in those matches.
Yeah.
Because the whole play is that who is the winner of the Rumble going to challenge, right? And now that kind of goes out the window when you're setting up that you may not know who the champion is going in. It's a little overcomplicated. They overthink things. But with that said, I know that one of the ideas is to kind of tease this champion versus champion concept, because we've spoken about this before, right? We've seen Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns how many times now? 5 times at least. You know, in big profile matches, and every time there's been a different element of stipulation or something on the line, it's been a little bit different. But how do you do the final one? Or, you know, if this is the final one, you really make it a mega match, and you make it mean something even more than just winning a title, and that's becoming, you know, double champion or unified champion or however you want to do it. That stipulation I'm into. I'm never a fan of the champion having to defend the title at the pay-per-view before WrestleMania. To me, it always comes off unless you have some major storyline that you're trying to do. I guess now the story is that Brock wants both titles. I don't know. I found it a little wonky, but I think, you know, the match looks like it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's a really fun match with the people involved. By the way, if you want a fun fact, there's 31 MMA matches represented in that chamber between Lashley, Lesnar, and Riddle.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
I mean,
That's a cool
and then Ronda's on the other side with her career
Ronda's
as well.
on the
So there's lots of MMA former fighters turned wrestling stars, or in the other sense with Lashley and Lesnar, pro wrestling first and then into MMA. So Andrew, stay here with me for a second. One person who is mysteriously not involved in anything and wasn't even on the show, even though the Royal Rumble was in his hometown, was Randy Orton. What's going on with Randy Orton? Like, I fully expected him to be a part of this entire thing with Elimination Chamber. He's one of their top stars, but he's missing from the match and he was missing from the show. Is there anything going on that you know of with Randy?
I haven't asked. I'm sure we'll find out in a couple days. I'm surprised by that. I don't know if it's like a personal thing. He's taking some time off. He went home or what, but I'm surprised he wasn't on because it's a major thing. His tag team partner is in that Elimination Chamber match. I don't know if that's going to come into play for somehow, but I don't know. I found it interesting that he wasn't there. Also, Shane not playing a big part.
Yeah. That's that as well. Okay. Denise, this Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabia shows previously, I guess in most of them, they didn't really affect, they were almost like not even in canon for WWE storylines, but this one is definitely going to have an effect on the build towards WrestleMania. They're making the show on the weekend. It is on a Saturday. So it is like officially part of, the WWE lore here. Do you like that this show, which is historically just like, there's some there's some negativity around it, right? Around why they're doing it. But now it is part of the canon. And does that change your thoughts on, on viewing it or on covering it or anything?
Well, I never essentially was like, it's hard to say like, oh, I was never not going to cover it. Like, it's my
Sure.
job. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't be watching this show. You shouldn't be, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm like, all right, well, it's my job and I'm going to watch it. I'm going to cover it just like I would any other show. So for me, that's never been something where I'm like, oh, I don't want to cover it. Like at the end of the day, it's my job. That's the way that I see it. In terms of the actual show, it's like, okay, Crown Jewel was actually not a bad show. Like from what I remember, it was a pretty decent show. So it is interesting to kind of see like again, we kind of go back to talking about the Royal Rumble and all the criticism and backlash that show got. And now we're heading into the Elimination Chamber, and on paper, the show so far with the matches that we have announced so far honestly looks like a good show. Like we talk about this Elimination Chamber match and the people that are in it, and I'm excited to see like the match itself. Like who I think is winning, I have a feeling, I'm 99.9% sure that it's going to be Brock Lesnar, but that's just where I'm sitting at with this. And we mentioned the Becky Lynch Lita match. That's something that I'm interested in seeing. Obviously, we don't know, how Lita is going to be in the ring, but regardless, I'm looking forward to it. So on paper, it's looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It's just interesting that they've just fit this show, which was kind of like, oh, we're just doing this because they're paying us a lot of money and he wants to see. Now it's completely in the storylines. Like you're watching the TV and Elimination Chamber is going to fit right into everything in the build to WrestleMania. I think that's actually pretty interesting. And I don't know how I feel about it necessarily, but it is now, if you are on the road to WrestleMania, this is now a must-see show. This is not one you can skip if you previously skipped it.
That is definitely true. And like, that's the thing. Like, we're not going to really know, again, with the title being on the line, it's going to be a big, like, all right, what direction are we heading in? With WrestleMania, you're going to know a lot based on what happens at the Elimination Chamber. And to be honest, like I'm not opposed to the fact that Bobby Lashley is defending the championship in there. And the reason for that is I don't expect him to walk out as champion. And they've been like, Bobby Lashley, unfortunately, has not been treated very well with this new reign. And it's only been like a couple of days and it just hasn't been that phenomenal, the way that they've been essentially portraying him as a champion. And I hate this whole hot potato stuff with the bout. I'm not a fan of it whatsoever.
He did look pretty fly in that suit though on Monday.
He looked phenomenal, like a really fancy hot Cheeto.
Yeah, he did. That's a good one. All right, real quick before we talk about Dynamite, because Dynamite has a pretty giant match that we should probably talk about on tomorrow night. So before that, I wanted to just quickly give a shout out to AEW's Black History Month CD release. Now, this is physical media. I don't have a CD player anywhere in my house anymore, so I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure it'll eventually hit streaming. And if they get a vinyl release, I will definitely pick up a vinyl release. But Black History Month CD release. I saw for a friend of the show, Will Washington, has 2 tracks on that, or he is on 2 tracks on that
Very
album.
cool.
A guy who I also know who's part of this this F4W empire here. His name is I think his rap name is Rated R. His name is Russell Tyson. I think he's a part of this as well. So I think this is really cool. I'm gonna buy a couple copies myself to give away on different shows. So maybe we can give away a copy somehow related to this show at some point down the line. Okay, so let's talk about Dynamite on Wednesday. Andrew, MJF, CM Punk in Chicago. It doesn't look like they're going to sell out, right? That show looks like probably partially because of what we had talked about over the weekend of them just coming to this market so many different times. But also, it doesn't look like it's going to be a great weather day for walk-ups.
Yeah, it looks like it's, let me see if I got the final numbers here. Russell Tix does a great job on Twitter with these numbers. They are a little short of a sellout. Okay, March 30th. I'll find it eventually, but so I don't know. I think that this match was supposed to sell a lot more tickets. They've saturated that market tremendously. I don't think it's going to be a bad crowd, but do they actually go forward with this match?
God,
or
they
is
have
it some
to.
sort of wacky finish? So right now, so they have as of yesterday, they had 1,700 tickets available. The current capacity setup is 7,007 seats. They have 5,304, so 75%. 92 new hard cam seats were added. And 569 tickets were sold since the announcement last week.
Yeah, so
or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was.
They're probably not going to hit that, but maybe there's just going to be crazy walk up. We never know. But okay, so back to what you're talking about. You still think there is a chance that they screw job us a little bit here with this buildup?
Yeah, I don't know why. I have that feeling. I feel like, this is a pay-per-view match, but maybe they have a different plan for the pay-per-view. I'm not too sure what they're going to do. But who loses? Does Punk beat him in Chicago and MJF gets that ultimate heat somehow? Or do you see Wardlow play a part in this and costing MJF the match? And Punk keeps his undefeatedness, and now you set up Wardlow and MJF for the future. There's a lot of options here. I just don't know what to reckon, but I'm excited to see it. I think this is possibly MJF's biggest match in the last, probably his biggest match, high profile. He's facing CM Punk in Chicago. It's happening if it does happen, and they could create 2 major different forks in the road with depending on who wins this.
All right, Denise, you've already booked Brock Lesnar coming out of the Elimination Chamber with the title. What would you do here with MJF and CM Punk?
Honestly, the second they announced this match, I was like, this match ain't gonna happen. Don't lie to me. This is not going to happen. I am not expecting to see MJF versus CM Punk in a legitimate match. I agree with Andrew here. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest, but I'm not expecting the actual match just yet. I think that's a match. Maybe? I don't know. I mean, if they do a scooter race, they might as well show us, the whole thing. But I just honestly, I don't think we're actually going to see the actual match. I don't see it happening. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's just not happening. And if it happens, I'm going to be shocked that they kind of just gave it away on a Dynamite. Let's be real. That's a pay-per-view quality match. So for me, you could do something with Wardlow where maybe Wardlow finally gets fed up with MJF. I don't know, takes him out of the match before the match even happens. Or maybe MJF does, fake something. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, so let's say theoretically that the idea is for the rematch to happen on the pay-per-view, right? Because they could have more than one match. And, maybe... we know how important TV is to them. It is the end all be all. And let's say they have a match. Maybe you build the result or you build the finish of the match into setting up a second match, which you then sell on pay-per-view. I could see that happening. It just doesn't seem like it's in the Tony Khan way of doing things to do a little bit of that, pulling the rug from under the fan base. But maybe, like you both, maybe the fan base is smart on this thing, and they're like, look, we don't even expect the match to happen anyways, so he's not actually pulling the rug from underneath us if that is the idea. So I would be pretty disappointed to not see the match just because of the history of what AEW does. You know, they don't really lie to the fans very often. But, you know, I'm intrigued that they have, you know, they're going to have my eyeballs anyways, but I'm definitely going to watch very closely this weekend. They just announced another match on the show, Ruby Soho versus Nyla Rose, in addition to Malachi Black and Brody King versus Pac and Penta, or Pac and Penta. So should be a pretty darn good show, and I'm sure they'll add a bunch of other things before tomorrow night. But any last quick thoughts on Dynamite before we move on to the last segment of our show?
No, honestly, but just to add to your point, though, in terms of like the whole not the way of Tony Khan doing it, I think that there's an exception here because of the MJF character. And so because this is MJF related, I don't necessarily feel like the backlash would be like, I don't, this is just me guessing, but I don't think the people would be like, oh my God, this match didn't happen. I think that the people probably expect it not to happen, or because of the way that MJF is and the character that MJF is, you can expect him to essentially be like, this match ain't happening or whatever.
Sure. No, I mean, you definitely have a point about how he's been doing things of late. Okay, so I wanted to get to this a little bit early so that we have some time to kind of say our goodbyes and also get our plugs in about, you know, everything that everyone's doing here. So let's actually go to the performers of the week. And I will go first because this has everything to do with yesterday, more so than it had to do with over the weekend. So as we know, Brock Lesnar is in the Royal Rumble, and he and Bobby Lashley have a very, very fun match until we get to the finish, which is involved with Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, and Paul Heyman turning on poor Brock, and, you know, everything involved in that. And then Brock comes into the Royal Rumble, tosses everyone around, drops Drew McIntyre out of the match to win the Royal Rumble, and he calls his shot on Monday Night Raw. He's going to face Roman, but he's also going to be in the Elimination Chamber. Now, I saw so much happiness in this guy's face yesterday. He was such a good promo. And, you know, Brock has his strengths in conviction in what he says, because Paul Heyman was the one who was doing most of the promo work. But now that he doesn't have that Paul Heyman cushion there for him, he's doing all of this on his own. And is this the Brock Lesnar? Is this the real Brock Lesnar? The people that are, you know, people who are close to him always said that, you know, if you know Brock, you know, he's got this really fun and good-natured side. If this is the real Brock Lesnar, man, this guy comes out of his shell in his 40s, and he's one of the better promos out there. Now, he doesn't have to dominate the conversation with these long soliloquies like Edge. He doesn't have to, you know, do these heel WWE saying things like The Miz. So there's something to that as to why he's so good. But I don't know. I just thought, man, this is a great baby face. This guy has such a great personality. He's funny. He looks like he's done some improv work because he's just completely working off of the stone-faced Bobby Lashley. He is my pick, but I wanted to ask you guys, like, am I out of my mind, or is this version of Brock Lesnar like one of the best versions ever of Brock Lesnar? Either one of you can go. I was so entertained last night.
I love all versions of Brock Lesnar. I'm a big Brock Lesnar fan. So for me, like, I've seen shades of this funny Brock Lesnar before. I'm not surprised whatsoever that we're getting this version of Brock Lesnar right now.
Andrew, your
I think Brock. I think this is a fantastic version of him. I've liked multiple versions of him, but I think this is the most relatable for a lot of people, and you could tell that he's having fun. We saw aspects of this when he would come out with the boombox and that, you know, when he was doing that stuff. But I think this is another extension of it, and I think it's fantastic, and it's exactly what WWE loves.
Yeah. He's a performer to the utmost here. Okay, Denise, Do you have a performer of the week for us?
I was thinking really hard on this one, really, really hard. And I legitimately can't say that one person really blew me away this week. So I'm going to have to give it to Jesus. I don't even know. I'm going to have to give it to God. I'm going to give it to Chad Gable just for the hell of it because he makes me laugh. And he made me laugh last night on Raw. And that's legitimately the best that I can give for this week.
That's 2 weeks in a row for him because he was mine last week. And, when he goes, is my cauliflower ears hearing things? Like, what a great line, great personality. I'm glad that they're giving him the opportunity to do stuff. So I think that's a great pick. All right, Andrew.
I'm going to go with Seth Rollins. I thought he did a fantastic job during the pay-per-view. His Shield entrance was great, very unexpected. I think he looked really good. The match was great. The finish was weird, but they did, I think he performed great. Him and Roman have great chemistry, and he really stood out to me.
That's a good one, too. And, when it comes to the Royal Rumble, because that was such a big event, our focus, obviously, on this show is very high on WWE. And same, we do the same thing for AEW when they have big stuff coming out of it, where we focus a lot on AEW. But I think it's probably right that all three of our picks were from WWE. Okay, so wanted to.
Hey, by the way, I got one more. Okay, you ready for this one? And it was a great one in the chat. Sam in our chat said Andrade when he said, "Where is your boss, Mr. Sting?" I think Andrade's character is fantastic.
Mr. Stink.
Yeah. And of course, we forgot Sammy's. We forgot Sammy.
Well, wait, Sammy.
The ladder match.
Oh yeah,
well, that counts in this week
forgot about the ladder match.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
okay, I want to take my answer back. Sammy should be in there. Yeah.
I have to tell you, man.
I completely forgot that happened in this period of this week.
Yeah, fantastic. What a great match. I think because we spoke about it so many times.
Yeah.
He was definitely the daredevil of the week because he did some stuff where I was like, my eyes were open just thinking like, this guy's too young to get hurt. And then he stuck it. He hit everything. Now we'll see that senton to Cody on the ladder where the ladder didn't budge at all. And his whole body just, it was very brutal. Quickly, rough. But he is amazing. And look, I hope that based off of that, they could actually do more character work with him because I think, when he does all of those high spots to get over so that he doesn't have to do as many high spots the next time, because then he'll be a bigger star. And I do hope that they do more things with him to where he doesn't have to do those crazy stunts to get over because he's a tremendous talent. And
but
Andrew
if he wants to do those crazy stunts, Garrett, I'm not gonna stop him.
But I just worry about him. He's such a young dude. I look at him and I'm like, my kid is like only a few years younger than you. Like this is crazy. You got such a long future ahead of you in this business. But I guess same with Darby Allin, right? Maybe they're just wired for that kind of stuff. But Andrew will like this comparison. I've called Sammy Guevara the Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block of AEW. So he looks just like Jordan Knight when Jordan Knight was a youngster. But all right, let's get our plugs in here. So Denise, where are people going to find you this week?
All right, please be here at F4W. I'll be here tonight to talk about NXT 2.0. I'll be here tomorrow night to talk about AEW Dynamite. I'll be here on Friday to talk about SmackDown and Rampage. On top of that, please head on over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. I have a ton of interviews going up. I just put one up today with Tasha Steeles. Check that one out. And Twitter and Instagram @_Denise Salcedo.
All right, Andrew. What can we find on Mat Men? And I know, are you ready to announce the Observer Live guest that you have? Or are we still keeping that under wraps?
Still keeping that.
Week? Okay,
still hanging on for that. Yeah.
Okay.
I got a alarm going off here. Sorry. Mat Men on Thursday, 10:30 Eastern. This week, every week essentially, we are live on Thursdays. We do it live on the Mat Men channel and the Twitch for F4W. Also, you can follow me on Twitter @AndrewZarian, Mat Men Podcast also, and Observer Live this Sunday.
All right, so I will be on the Fight Game podcast at F4W Wednesday night. And I don't know exactly yet, but Dave and I will more than likely get together this weekend for Wrestling Observer Radio. Last week, I mentioned to Andrew on Wrestling Observer Live, Dave said, nope, no Ronda Charlotte. It's going to be Ronda Becky on that Friday night show. And then he had to come back in the morning on Saturday and go, oh, I miscommunicated with the source. It is actually going to be Ronda Charlotte. So stuff like that happens on that show. We sometimes break some news on it. So yeah, I guess that, we'll end a little early here, but I wanted to save some time just to tell Denise Salcedo in person how much I loved working with you, how much I enjoy doing this show with you. And, Andrew and I will have to find someone else to do this show with. But no matter what, this is the OG3 crew here. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast. And I'm sure we will meet again.
Yes.
Never.
Andrew, watch your back. I'm coming for you.
You know what? I don't want to book too far in advance, but if we all get together in Vegas for Double or Nothing,
well, I'll be there.
Maybe we can do something on that weekend if it's not too busy. So just putting a thought in your heads there.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get out of here a few minutes early. Thanks to everybody for listening. For Denise, for Andrew, I'm Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.